Het-Heru, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Runefer. This is Kazakma Keperu with another broadcast for you. Now, today I want to talk about a very interesting subject, which is how powerful is the Illuminati? And I usually don't want to dwell on things like the Illuminati and all that because it sends the incorrect message out there that we should be afraid and focusing solely on the enemy. Rather, I like to focus on your power. But I think this is very important because you have to understand the nature of the beast that we're dealing with here. So if you can give me 1 second, I just want to, let me see if I can just adjust my camera to make me look prettier, you know. So, hey, Anthony, how's it going? Tepu. So give me 1 second. So I'll just take care of some stuff before we get into the program. You know, a lot of individuals have been contacting me, and when I'm referring to, you know, Kemetic culture and things of that nature, they ask me, you know, like, hey, can you tell me what books your reading is from? So, you know, I always tell them that, you know, don't forget that I've gone through priesthood study. So a lot of it you won't find in books, and a lot of that information I go through deep trance meditation, and I pull from the Akashic records. But a really good book for you to start with, and I think it's very much underplayed. It's not really, you know, recognized that much in the Kemetic community or in the New Age community, which is the Meduna Tear, Volume 1 by Ra'u Nefa Amen. And you should get this book. It's on Amazon. I think this book really is phenomenal. You know, it's the groundbreaking book that you have to have in your library, and it really breaks down how magic works, how the ancient Kemetic people lived, and everything. It goes to everything. And one of the more fascinating aspects is it teaches you how to use the great oracle of Tahuti. And what I become very, very disheartened by is that when I see some of these spiritual communities and they don't practice divination. And I don't understand that, because divination is a very, very important part of communicating with God and finding out your destiny, and just learning to navigate through life. How do you not have that, you know? Hi, Angel. How you doing? So it's very important that you incorporate divination in your life, and this book will definitely teach you that. The second book that I think is one that needs to be in your library, and when I read this book, it was like I was reborn. I was just like, wow, it contains so much information, specifically targeting how to be Osir. Now, the book doesn't talk about Osir specifically, but it introduces you to your power and what you can do and who you are. It's called Psychonaut. And if you understand Psychonaut, what that is, really, it talks about exploring consciousness, exploring your power. And it literally goes over everything in terms of who you are, what you can do, and what mainstream society is not telling you about yourself. Siwen, Hatepu. So I want to get some shout outs really quick. Shout out to Ruby Nukui. He is she, I'm sorry, is a Patreon contributor. If I got that wrong, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Next, I want to give a shout out to Tia. She's working hard in her spiritual journey. So if you haven't contributed to the Patreon campaign, please do so. You can do so for only $1 a month, and you get a lot of good information and training as a Patreon supporter that's very exclusive to just Patreon. The other thing is, if you haven't taken the opportunity to do your spiritual reading to find out your destiny, or if you're in a relationship or thinking about getting into a relationship with someone, to do a reading on them first before you get into a relationship, because you never know what happens down the line. I had a really good friend, and who's going to remain nameless. He, you know, married this woman, and shortly thereafter, she ended up cheating on him. And I remember before they got married, I told him, listen, you either need to come to me, or you need to come to another priest who was above me to do a reading prior or before getting into that marriage agreement, because you just don't know. And he is very open to spiritual culture, but he didn't get the opportunity because things were going so fast in terms of arranging everything. And so anyway, the marriage didn't last. It kind of really fell apart very quickly. And words were exchanged, police were called, court battles and all that. So save yourself from all of that, do your oracle reading. Now, for me, if you want to know how I operated, I've been in studying spiritual culture for, I don't even know. I was in the priesthood for 12 years and then went out and studied on my own for, I don't know, 15 years. So I have advanced to a certain level to where I can read spirit, or I can read energy. I can read your spirit and communicate with your spirit. So a lot of times when I was dating or looking for a prospective mate, I would read upon the encounter or interacting with them, I would read her energy and determine if this is someone I wanted to take a step further. And I got really proficient with that and really good with that. So that's something that you want to also do, because there's sometimes you meet somebody and then it's a whirlwind love affair, or you believe that this person is your soulmate, and your emotions start to get the best of you. And we call that emotional aspect governed by the goddess Het-Heru or Het-Heru. Twee means the sweet, the lovely. So you get caught up in a twee thing and you forget to do the reading. But if you have advanced to a certain level of spiritual culture, then you know how to read that person's spirit, So, hey, Suan, yeah, I do teach divination. We're doing a divination class in the Patreon. So if you subscribe to Patreon, you can get the classes through there. So there was 2 instances. Number one, where I had met this girl I was courting, and at the time I was in Vegas, and she came to see me. And then I remember us sitting down in the lobby of the hotel, and we were just talking, and immediately I felt uncomfortable. I read her spirit, and there was something just not right. So I just got up and walked away in mid-conversation. And I kid you not, I was just like, we were talking, and I said, you know what, this woman is not good. I just got up and walked away. And, you get to a level of when you're getting older, you don't want to play around. You don't have time to play around, because as you get older, you need to start thinking about, your life settling down with the right person, and not jumping around from partner to partner. And then most recently, there was another case where I ran into this woman coming out of the Starbucks. Her and I talked, and I read her spirit, and immediately I knew that the two of us were going to a vibe. It was going to work beautifully. And lo and behold, shortly thereafter, we had a really, really successful relationship. But again, it takes a high level to understand and read a person's spirit or communicate with their spirit, because a lot of people are still Sahu. And as you know, when I talk about Sahu, it is the animal aspect within you. So your emotions get going, and then before you know it, you picked the wrong person. And this happens especially with a lot of men and a lot of women. Women will say, why am I always getting into these abusive relationships? Because you have a blueprint. And what that means is you have a certain type of person that you go for. And usually it's an abusive type person, and you're not getting the message. So you're going to go around and round on this merry-go-round until you learn to get off and start looking at different types of people, until you start to operate from a higher consciousness level. Because the idea of a relationship is to spiritually evolve. The relationship is to serve you in a way of having a relationship, whatever challenges that you face, help you to grow and become Oser. That's what the relationship is there for. It is not there for you to get attention from the mate, to get love and affection. Yes, those things are nice, but really everything you do in this lifetime and the challenges you face are there for the sole purpose of helping you grow to ascend to the 5th dimension or become Oser in this lifetime. And I think I have something. Oh, hold on 1 second. I was just looking at it. Let me see if I can get it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, sorry about that. So for those who want to really get into understanding relationships, what the true purpose, and a relationship can have a destiny reading. You go to a diviner and they will do a reading saying your relationship has to fulfill this destiny. But anyway, here's a good book. It's called the Afrocentric Guide to a Spiritual Union. And it's really, really good, based on the Sar and the Set, and you see baby Heru there. It's really good at telling you about here's why you should be in a relationship, what is the purpose of a relationship, and how to use it specifically, as I said before, to spiritually grow and evolve, and not to use a relationship for the fulfillment of just the lower base animalistic emotions. And, I've taught things, and I don't want to get too much into it because it tends to people who are newbies or neophytes get nervous when I start to bring this up. But one of the things in a relationship that you should look at is when you're having sex or making love, whatever term you want to attribute to it, is that the sex raises the Ra force, the Kundalini energy. So when that energy is raised, it needs to go and be directed somewhere, and it doesn't need to be directed back to the animal passionate instincts. You and your mate can focus on an objective, which is maybe to buy a house or to win the lottery or to get a new car. If during that heightened orgasm, if you both are focusing on the image of what you both agree to try and spiritually work towards, you will actually manifest that. And that is going back to the secret and the law of attraction. And most people don't aware of it, that using sex magic or using sex in that way, instead of just pleasing the carnal urges, but focusing on an objective, is a magnificent way of working your power. So I want you to think about that, because when you are in a relationship, and especially when you're looking at each other in the eyes, and you're in love, that is a powerful energy. And if you know how to use that energy, it can manifest so many wonderful things in your life. And many of you have heard that. I remember when I was trying to produce one of my first feature films, and I had the challenge of raising a lot of money. I had to raise a lot of money. So I had a friend, and one of the things he liked to do was go out to these big clubs where they would have all the music. And back then, this is years ago, voguing was in, and Madonna was singing about voguing. Well, I would go and stand in the background and listen to the music and the beat. And then I would visualize my objective of getting money for my feature film. I wasn't really interested in networking with people, not networking because you don't network at a club, but I wasn't interested in socializing with people and doing all that, or looking at the women. I was more interested in, how can I use this music and visual images to manifest my goal? And lo and behold, I was able to connect with investors and get money for my feature film, because even then, years ago, where this is prior to me being in the priesthood, I knew that there were certain spiritual energies out there that could assist me in what I was looking for. So I want you guys to start thinking about that, because our ancestors lived a spiritual way of life. Everything they did and everything that they saw had a spiritual implication to it. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to drink this tea. Our Japanese ancestors, when they had tea ceremonies, it was also involving paying tribute to the ancestors. The tea ceremony wasn't just about pouring tea and drinking it, but it had a whole universal significance to it. And that's how we saw things. When we looked at, for example, the makeup of who we are as human beings, as so-called human beings, we didn't just see the Geb aspect, we saw the universe. We said that you are a mirror or reflection of the universe. And then we began to study the universe and man, and then in studying one thing, we began to realize and know all things. And that's how our culture got to such an advanced level. So one of the things that that I want to tie into this is back to the subject matter at hand, is the Illuminati. Now, I've had many discussions with people online, and they said, well, the Illuminati only goes back to, 1776. And I'm like, well, that's what you're told. Now, the Illuminati doesn't call themselves the Illuminati, and they're not some secret, table, directing the affairs of the world. We don't know what they call themselves. So I refer to them in many different names, such as the cabal, the 1%, the the ruling elite, the aristocracy, whatever you want to call them, But one thing we do know is they do exist, and a great thing that David Icke was pointing out, and he was saying that there is this list of nations or list of countries, excuse me. And every time a president comes into office, we start a war with those countries, and they check off each country. And it's also when a new president comes into office, we also create a bad guy. One day it's one administration, it's Saddam Hussein. The next administration, it's North Korea. So, it's this manufacturing of evil to keep the populace afraid, and buy into the whole idea that America is about democracy and spreading democracy, when really America has always been about the same thing ever since slavery, which is colonization and destroying indigenous cultures. And I'm using that term destroying because that's what they have set out to do under the guise of, their ministries, and things of that nature. And they have many organizations that disguise themselves, like the Council on Foreign Relations, Peace Corps, all of these things that disguise themselves as doing good things are really there to further support the agenda of world domination. Hey, Anthony, sure, I'd definitely love to talk to you about doing a film. So this is what we have to be aware of. Now, I talked about before, it's very important for us to understand the nature of the beast. And so the Illuminati goes back thousands of years. These are a small 1% who you'll never see. It's like the hidden hand. They control the affairs of the world. They've put the planet in a prison, and they are using you to direct the course of the future into this very negative dystopia future. And they are, and a lot of people in the New Age movement are talking about we have to do something. We can't allow them to bring into effect the one world currency and a new world order, and not forget that they have already won. And I've said this many, many times. They have already won because the state that we're in now is one of living in the dark ages. So Suan, they're genetically modified. So they have engaged in genetic modification. If you've ever seen the Star Trek episode with Khan, where he's coming out of hibernation and Captain Kirk battles him. And one of the things about that story about Khan is that there's a small group that has been genetically engineered to be superior and intelligent. That's what the Illuminati are. So they're super smart, super intelligent, and they have they live in a different timeline than we do, meaning that they live among advanced culture, advanced technology, kind of like what Wakanda in the Black Panther. So in fact, if you ever watch the news outside of the United States, like the BBC and other third world news, you'll find that whenever the United States invades, they pull out, especially if it's going to be a very prolonged battle, they pull out their high technology. And in the invasion of Panama, many of the citizens there reported death rays. They said that there was these laser rays that were melting tanks and stuff that the United States pull out under General Colin Powell. And this has been backed up and substantiated many, many times. As since then, decades later, we've been using these death rays and lasers and things like that, which was originally designed by Nikola Tesla, who was the first one to come up with the idea of the death ray, and the CIA confiscated all his notes. So, they did that because they wanted to build it, But anyway, we really have to understand the power and capability of the cabal, the global elite. And when I see these individuals, for one thing, you get people who read lots of books and they think because they're book smart, they are intelligent. But what they really are is book dumb. Because Being book smart is only kind of like Sebek. Sebek, he's informed, but he doesn't know. Knowing is wisdom. So that's Tahuti. All right. So every time I see one of these so-called Comitian priests or Comitian people, and they're like sitting in front of their bookcase and saying, "Oh, I've read all these books, and I know Kemetic culture and dates." I'm like, "Yeah, you probably know some dates and stuff, but you don't practice it. You don't evoke spirits, do you? You know, do you create spirits? Have you created Ergobor? No, you have not." So they don't understand the deep occult practices that I do. I mean, I've done so much in terms of practices and rituals. I've ended up in a hospital many times, and I kid you not. I mean, I've invoked spirits and inadvertently invoked demons and had to cast them out and had a lot of issues with that, you know. But these individuals, they don't do these things. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that if we're going to battle the forces that have imprisoned the planet, you're not going to be able to battle and win with current technology or current armory. Meaning that no matter what you think you pull out, you know, you can say Second Amendment all you want. You can pull out all of your weapons, your guns. They still have more advanced weapons and guns. And basically, even though they're only less than 1% of the global population, they control the 99% of the global population. So they will use everything against you in terms of the military, the Navy, you know, Star Wars program, which is still going on, space lasers and all that. So you're not going to be able to go up against them using modern instruments. So the other thing is because they have these think tanks and R&D, research and development organizations, or black ops projects, to where they're constantly experimenting and coming up with new weaponry. You know, I actually experienced something, and I won't go into too much detail, when I was traveling in this large city, and the Illuminati did this test to knock out the power in at least, like, I think it was like 5 city blocks. And this energy burst was just incredible. You felt it in your bones, and it knocked out everything. And I have never in my life experienced something like that. And I was like, if we think that we can take them on, we're really kidding ourselves. And the other thing is why you won't win against them if you try to take them on through a physical battle, is the fact that they control time and space. And I've said this many times, and it doesn't seem to resonate because people don't get it. You know, remember, the only thing that exists is the now moment. Okay, there is no such thing as the past and no future. The only thing that exists is a now moment, and you're constantly shifting through many infinite now moments, depending on your vibration. Okay, and you only see the reality of the world around you is because you've been given what I call a post-hypnotic suggestion, meaning that you're in a hypnosis state. You're hypnotized, and someone has fed to you these post-hypnotic suggestions, or these ideas, which take us to Sebek. And when you take in these ideas, remember, thoughts are transferable. I can transfer a thought to you, you can transfer a thought to me, but you don't own that thought unless you take it in and you believe it. And the moment you believe it, it manifests as a reality. See, what truly exists in the matrix, apart from the physical objects, which, you know, I told you before, is the object realm. The subjective realm is when there was just you in the beginning, and then you, the one, became the two, and therefore brought into existence the objective realm. So when you look at that and you take in a belief system, and the belief system manufactures a reality, you know that the only thing that truly exists is infinite possibilities. That is the only thing that really exists. And the minute you accept a belief system, you pull from the wave formation, of the wavelength, which is all waves or frequencies. You pull from that wave one possible reality out of infinite realities. So what the ruling elite has done is, what they do is they feed you ideas and thoughts. They were implanting these things in your mind so that they know that you are a reality generating machine. So you are now manifesting a reality that they want, not one that you want, but you don't realize that you are in a reality tunnel or hypnotic tunnel, that you're in a hypnotized or hypnosis state, and that they are, through their radio towers, are sending out frequencies and signals to implant thoughts within your mind, which is causing you to generate that reality. And one of the realities that they are continually generating within you is the idea of polarization, the idea that one thing is right, the other thing is wrong, of two options, and which is you being polarized in left brain R complex thinking, and that is why the world is in trouble, because we have been dominated by the left brain and the R complex. And I think that this is why David Icke and individuals like him keep talking about these reptilians. And I don't believe the planet is taken over by reptilians. But when you talk about the reptilians, you're talking about the oldest part of the brain, which is the R complex. And beyond that, or above that, is the mammalian brain. And then you get up to neocortex. So I think a lot of what these individuals are talking about when they talk about the reptilians is a metaphor for that the ruling elite is dominated by left brain R complex thinking, which totally makes sense, and totally that's what they are. So we could say, Sue-Ann, to answer your question, they have been around, that we know, at least since the Middle Kingdom of ancient Egypt, or Kemet, or Timeri, or I guess we can call it Smaitawi, if you want to use that term. So we know that they've been around, and they were responsible for bringing Egypt down. They specifically worked with an elite priesthood group to bring down Egypt. And if you watch Star Wars, A New Hope, the original trilogy from George Lucas, George Lucas is an insider, meaning he knows a lot about the Illuminati and all that. The whole idea of Star Wars is about the Illuminati taking over. And George has tried to communicate a lot of things through that movie, Star Wars, to bring forth. And Hollywood does this all the time. Hollywood tells on itself, and it tells on the global elite all the time. So when you see things like in Star Wars, how the Darth Sidious or the Emperor was able to take control by getting rid of all the Jedi, it's kind of like what David Icke was saying of how one of the first things the Illuminati did was to wage war against all the shamans, to get rid of the priests and priestesses, so they could have this occult knowledge to themselves. So that was what that was all about. And then they went underground and started to manipulate the destiny of the world. So going back to what I was saying is that if you're trying to come up against them, understand that they control time and space. So they could plant thoughts in your head to have you act against your own best interest. So, and they do it all the time. And many people have bared witness to this happening through what we call is the Mandela effect. And if you're not familiar with the Mandela effect, you should research it, because basically what people are starting to realize is that when they start looking back into history or what happened years ago, they are finding that the past has changed, and that there's still evidence of the old timeline. So, and this has scared many people, and a lot of people are wondering what's going on. And some speculate it's the Hadron Collider, that they're trying to open a portal to another dimension. Well, it's not the Hadron Collider that's doing that. It is the fact that they know how to manipulate time and space by using us to do so. So we are all projecting a holographic fourth dimensional reality that's in accordance with their wishes. But that is not how God, Netta, or Source wanted it to be. The idea was that you are a seer, and you should be manifesting the reality that you want. And the only reason that you don't do this is because the masses of the population don't understand their power. So one of the most sinister and evil genius things that the Illuminati did was they created the major religions like Islam, Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, and they peppered it throughout the entire planet, and using the United States and the guise of democracy have gone overseas and spread this religion and cause factionalization, fighting, pitting one group against the other. But the key factor, if you look at with all these religions, these major religions, is the idea of appealing to a third party or an outside entity for help, never turning inward to look at yourself and say, I am God, I have power, I can manifest whatever reality that I want. So that's the one thing that all those religions have in common. You see that in Islam, your reliance is on Muhammad. In Christianity, it's on Jesus, you know. So you look at the Jewish religion on Moses, the book of Moses, all this. So there's always a theme of turning away from yourself for your salvation and looking for help from somebody outside of you because you're helpless. And that's not how God made you. There's a reason why you are here and you share in the same power as God, not in quantity, but in quality. All right. So there, you have to understand that and keep that in mind. That you have power within you. Now, going back to how can we overcome the Illuminati and win in the end, it's only going to be through you coming into the realization of your true nature and stepping up and becoming the king or queen you're supposed to be. Now, what do I mean by that? In the story of Asar and Aset, Heru was battling Set, his evil uncle Set, for the throne of Egypt. Okay, so that's a grand metaphor because when Heru won the battle, Osiris was able to be resurrected from the dead and was able to rule. So this metaphor that our ancestors left for us is talking to you directly. And it's saying that you need to resurrect Osiris within you. You need to battle Set. And Set is the Sahu, animal nature within you. Let me just take a moment out here too, because I want to say this. If you guys like this video, if you like my videos, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to get more videos and more information that's not readily available out there. So when I see these conspiracy theorists talking about, oh, we don't want to go toward this new world order, you know, because it's going to be satanic. And I'm like, yes, it's true, but we already live in a new world order because the masses of people on the planet are deaf, dumb, and blind. They're being used, their power, they've given up their power. And we don't even realize that we have done that. So what I'm saying to you is that this whole idea of this future that we're supposedly headed toward, where there'll be one government, one currency, is just another step in their master plan. That's all it is, because they've already implemented steps 1, 2, and 3 or whatever, and they're just going on to step 10. So stop thinking that you don't want the Illuminati to win. They've already won. It's simple. You know, they've killed off most of the shaman who were part of the indigenous people of culture, of color throughout the planet. They've already gone and colonized all these third world countries. They've already gone and taken out democratically elected leaders and put in place puppet rulers. So all of this is already done. They're just now enhancing their plan and moving to the next level. What you can do is not to protest, not to think that electing a new president will change anything, because it doesn't, because a president that comes into office starts a war and they continue the master plan, the grand chess game. What you can do is start to tune into your power within you and come into the realization of yourself as God man, God woman, and take your rightful place on your throne, as the kingship, the queenship. Take your place. Because when you do that, then you cut off their support system. They can no longer use you as a reality generating machine, and you can therefore work with others of like mind to manifest a totally different reality. And when you do that, then you will actually see for yourself firsthand the Mandela effect. And there are times in my life, like for example, today, when my person was really frustrated at something that happened on a phone call, I realized that that's not really happening. It's all a projection or creation from my own inner being. And so when something extraordinary happens, I see it as a synchronistic effect, or synchronicity, as Carl Jung called it. And I know that I am the one who's manifesting that. So you have to take accountability and responsibility for things that are happening in your life, because if you know you're God man or God woman, then you also know that nothing happens that you do not allow or create to happen. And that's very important, because remember, all that really exists is infinite possibilities. The minute you focus on a thought and accept the thought as a belief system, it then now becomes a manifestation of fourth dimensional time and space. So keep that in mind, that you can't get away from that. You're always constantly creating. You are a creator. Well, I shouldn't say creator, because we talked about this before. All that there is already exists. So you really can't create anything. You can merely just vibrate to a certain frequency to where it becomes visible to you. Okay, because all things exist simultaneously. But we can use the term creator just to facilitate our conversations. But you're not creating anything. You can't make something appear poof, and you've created and thought of it on your own. Just like you really can't discover anything. You can't look through a telescope and say, oh, I've discovered that star system. No, you didn't. You actually manifested the star system. You didn't discover it, because it was already in existence in one of the many infinite parallel universes that we exist in. So think about that. So the idea is to come to a place, a position where you realize your power. And then when you realize your power, you defeat them. That's how you defeat them. So don't think about being a revolutionary in the sense of Castro or picking up your weapons and going out there and making a change. That's not going to work. Because if you remember in the story of Osiris Set, when Heru, his first few attempts to defeat Set, he ended in a stalemate. He just couldn't defeat him. And it was only when he went to Tehuti, or thought, that he was able to become victorious. And thought, or Tehuti, or Jehuti, symbolizes the right brain, which is the seat of infinite wisdom. Okay, and that's the Akashic records. So when you're looking to defeat the evil ones, you've got to tune into yourself. Any battle, physical battle that you engage in, will only either meet in a stalemate, which is defeat, or an outright defeat. Okay, so anyway, I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And I hope you will embark on that journey to come into a realization of yourself and your true powers. So again, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to get notifications of more videos or when I'm going to do a live stream. And also, if you haven't gotten your reading done, you can sign up at the second link below for a destiny reading, a relationship reading, a career reading, because you have to find out what career you are here to fulfill, because there's a destiny in terms of your career, what you should be pursuing. Some people want to be actors, but that's not what your destiny is here for. You may need to be a doctor, and anytime you try to do acting, it's going to result in failure. And then you wonder why. Oh, you could become sad and upset, but you didn't realize that your destiny or your pre-life agreement with Tehuti was that you were to become a doctor. So get on that course by understanding what agreement you made through oracle reading or working with a diviner. Okay, and the other thing is subscribe to the Patreon campaign if you can. You can do so again for as little as $1, and I'll give you a shout out if you do so. Hey Tia, how's it going? Het-Heru. So you can do so for as little as $1, and you'll get a lot of great information that's not available to the masses of public. And as time goes on, I'm going to take the Patreon campaign to the next level, because we're going to have multiple courses, not just on divination, but we'll have other courses on manifesting different realities and how you can do that in your personal life so that you won't go through life like wanting, because God created abundance. How did God create abundance? Can anybody give me an answer? What is abundance? Waiting for an answer. Can somebody tell me what's abundance? Abundance, I'll give you a hint. Abundance is Ma'at, because Ma'at is wealth. You want to be wealthy? Go to Ma'at. What is Ma'at's planet? Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system. Jupiter is abundance, okay? And Jupiter is massive, massive. And that's Ma'at. She's wealthy, she's balanced, she's harmony, she's cosmologics, and all that in a bag of chips. So anyway, this is Kasak Ma Keperu, son of Ma'at. And until my next broadcast, Amen Ra.